Back from its trip to the USA and Canada, the Formula One circus is in Holland this weekend and the seaside resort of Zandvoort, because the Dutch Grand Prix has been reinstated in the calendar. We thought there was going to be no Dutch Grand Prix this year at its traditional home in Zandvoort, but here we all are on a Saturday for a change, and the grid now assembling for this very popular circuit, always popular among the crowds and among the drivers. Pironi there on the second row. We just saw Piquet, but it's the Renaults, the turbo Renaults, that are on the front row, and on row 3, Patrick Tambay. Tambay in the Ferrari number 27, where we were so used to seeing Gilles Villeneuve of Canada, because Tambay has taken over that seat. Niki Lauda, the Long Beach winner, and fastest of the non-turbocharged cars here with the McLaren, and the grid now being cleared, and we see Arnoux 1:14.23, an enormously quick time in the cooler practice session on Thursday. Prost alongside him in the other Renault, just fractionally slower. Then Piquet using, of course, the turbocharged BMW engine in the Brabham, the Montreal winner, and Didier Pironi in the turbo Ferrari. So 4 turbos on the front 2 rows. Then the fastest non-turbo, Niki Lauda, with, of course, the Cosworth-powered McLaren, and Patrick Tambay, the Ferrari newcomer, the Villeneuve replacement alongside him. Then we have Keke Rosberg in the Williams, so often quick, but still Rosberg not a winner with this car. And now as we look down from the helicopter, and the cars on the warm-up lap, weaving to warm their tyres up as they always do to get heat into the tyres before the first frantic lap. And you see the undulating, varied corners of this Zandvoort circuit as the field come through. The tight Tarzan hairpin, Gerlach, Hunsrück over the brow of the hill, the back section with the new chicanes that have been introduced to slow the cars down on what had become an enormously fast circuit before they have the fast curve of Bossuit back to the start-finish straight. Here they are, wait for the red light and then the green, which is going to start the race. The 2 Renaults at the front, the lights are red. Now they're green, the Renaults move, but a slow start from Piquet, and Lauda's coming up the pit lane on the inside, Watson on the outside, and Piquet is absolutely overwhelmed, but Pironi has made a good start in the first of the 2 Ferraris. Tambay is behind him. It's 2 Renaults, it's 2 Ferraris, then it's Lauda, Giacomelli and the Alfa Romeo, then it's John Watson, Nelson Piquet trapped in with De Cesaris behind him, and the rest of the field streaming through Gerlach-Bocht, round the Hugenholz-Bocht, and up the hill now, away from that tight corner behind the pits, over the brow at Hunsrück, and off on the first of 72 laps. And it's Alain Prost in front. It's René Arnoux, his teammate, behind him. The red flash on the nose of the leading Renault, the blue on the second. That's Prost leading, Arnoux in second place, and Alain Prost from the second grid position making the better start. But already Didier Pironi is closing on Arnoux for second place. Patrick Tambay is still 4th. There is Pironi in 3rd place. There, the second red car, number 27, is Patrick Tambay with Lauda behind him, and the rest of the field streaming away behind. And Piquet now working to make up for that bad start. Piquet in the white and dark blue Brabham. But Pironi, the only man staying with the Renaults on this first of 72 laps as they go through the Bossuit and onto the long start-finish straight. There they are completing 1 lap. And it's Prost, Arnoux and Pironi. You saw a glimpse there of Piquet trying to make up some places, but this is the second place battle on the screen now. There's the leader, Prost, in the first of the Renaults. Arnoux, Pironi, then the gap before we get Tambay in the second Ferrari, and already Piquet is behind Niki Lauda, so Piquet moving up past Bruno Giacomelli's Alfa Romeo as the leaders already go over the brow up towards Hunsrück and on their second lap. Always constant twists and turns, the sweeping corners of Zandvoort, as Prost bounces over the bumps, and Zandvoort now a very bumpy circuit with these very harshly sprung cars, and Pironi's going through into second place. Pironi pushing Arnoux there. I think he was through, he was. So Prost the leader and Didier Pironi already on this second lap. Pironi has gone through in the Ferrari, past Arnoux, the pole position man. So it's Renault leading, Ferrari second, Renault third, Ferrari fourth, and the McLaren of Niki Lauda is still leading the pursuit of Patrick Tambay in 5th place. Pironi then into second place, and now as they come over the start-finish line to finish the second lap, Pironi now trying to close on that leading Renault of Alain Prost. The Renault's always very fast, and look, there is the Brabham moving up. Tambay is passed by the reigning world champion Nelson Piquet. Niki Lauda still behind. So Nelson Piquet in the Turbo Brabham past Niki Lauda, past Patrick Tambay, the blue helmet in the red car 27 is Patrick Tambay of France in the Italian Ferrari. This Tambay's first drive for Ferrari. And Piquet and Lauda's alongside the Ferrari also. Lauda goes alongside the Ferrari and through. Niki Lauda, he doesn't go through. I thought those cars were going to touch then as they go over Hunsrück. The power of the Ferrari, the turbocharged Ferrari, taking it away from Niki Lauda in the non-turbocharged Cosworth-powered McLaren, and Lauda tries again. The second of the two red and white cars is Bruno Giacomelli with the orange helmet in the Alfa Romeo, but Tambay in the dark red Ferrari leads. Lauda and Bruno Giacomelli. Keke Rosberg in number 6 has moved up, the green and white Williams behind them. And this is Tambay once more. Tambay still holding on to this fourth. In fact, it's now 5th place, of course, and here's the battle for the lead once again. The Renault of Prost, the Ferrari of Pironi, over the start-finish line, and Pironi, as you can see, is closer as they go into the Tarsenbach, the long second gear corner at the end of the very fast start-finish straight, through Gerlachbocht, down a slight hill, into this corner now, which is the Hugenholzbocht, a very, very tight corner behind the pits, up the hill again, up through the gearbox, and Pironi not getting much closer on the fast bits to leader Alain Prost in the Renault, but it's through the back section, through the tighter chicanes, which we'll see in a second. That is where Pironi is closing. Look at him now, closing up through Schivlach, and now down to Marlborough-Bocht. This is Marlborough-Bocht, the recently installed chicane, which has slowed down the back section. And Pironi, a little twitch there over the curve. Pironi, number 28, in second place. The Turbo Ferrari closing relentlessly on leader Alain Prost in the Turbo Renault. And Pironi, head down in the cockpit, very, very determined man indeed. 2 French drivers, a French car and an Italian car. And now look how he uses the slipstream to get close as they go through the curve of Bossuit onto the start-finish straight. And Pironi is tucked into the slipstream of the Renault. He pulls out, he's alongside, all the way down the inside under braking, and Didier Pironi takes the lead. Very, very neat manoeuvre indeed. There was nothing that Alain Prost could do about it. Prost going down the traditional line on the outside of the corner with his brakes hard on, and Pironi nipping inside. Now, will Pironi be able to pull away from the Renault? The Renault seeming to be faster on the straight bits. You see it once again. He's used the slipstream to suck himself up to the Renault. He dives up the inside under braking. Both cars with their brakes hard on, turning into Tarsen, and now Pironi moving away. Pironi shaking off the pursuit of the Renault through the twisting back sections of the course, and now onto the start-finish straight again. Can Prost make up that lost ground? Pironi the leader, Ferrari. Prost in second place, Renault. Arnoux third place, Renault, and there is Nelson Piquet in 4th place, closing all the time. And the 5th place battle behind him. Patrick Tambay in number 28. Lauda still behind. Giacomelli still behind. Keke Rosberg in the white car. The back of this quartet. Rosberg up the inside. Rosberg goes all the way up the inside. But Lauda is alongside Giacomelli, and a tremendous traffic jam through Tarsenbach that time. And that didn't do Keke Rosberg at the back of this quartet any good at all. So it's still in this wonderful 5th place battle. Rosberg in the Williams at the back of these 4. The front, Patrick Tambay. Lauda having a little look at the inside once again as they go off towards Hunsrück. The second of the red and white cars is Bruno Giacomelli's V12 Alpha. And at the back of this quartet, a very determined Keke Rosberg. Fastest lap already to Pironi on full tanks, of course. A lot of weight of fuel this early in the race. But Tambay in 5th place. Lauda 6th. Giacomelli 7th. Rosberg 8th. We've got Riccardo Patrese coming up into 9th place now. And I think we've got a glimpse there of the 10th man, who is in fact Derek Warwick, going very well in the Tolman, not going very well in the old Ligier. Jacques Lafitte, he's in the pits, he's out of the car, and so his race is run a miserable weekend for that team because Eddie Chiba didn't even qualify in the other Ligier. And meanwhile, Tambay, on his first race for Ferrari, remember, giving an excellent account of himself, holding down 5th place under a lot of pressure. Now look at Rosberg weaving. Rosberg comes up the inside once more. Rosberg is alongside Giacomelli. Now who's going to break latest? Giacomelli breaks latest. Giacomelli keeps that place in 7th place, and still Rosberg at the back, and now Patrese and Derek Warwick are closing up, and that makes a 6-car battle for 5th place. Wonderful racing here at Zandvoort. Still the Ferrari of Patrick Tambay is 5th. Lauda is still 6th. Still Giacomelli 7th. Still the very, very hard trying Keke Rosberg is 8th. And Patrese is 9th in the second of the Turbo Brabhams. 10th is Derek Warwick, and as we said, that's a wonderful performance for the Turbo Tolman, and certainly the best race we've seen Derek Warwick drive. Niki Lauda there, not getting close enough to Tambay to get on to real terms, and you see they're now 13 seconds behind the leader. That 5th place battle already 13 seconds down. That was after 5 laps. We're now coming up to complete the 7th. And now, up the outside comes the Williams, all the way up alongside Niki Lauda. And Rosberg does it. A brave manoeuvre to go round the outside, and Bruno Giacomelli has lost time somewhere because Giacomelli has dropped behind Patrese also. So a shuffle of places there. And now Rosberg is past Lauda, and Lauda having failed to get past the Ferrari. Now Rosberg's going to have a try. Rosberg sideways coming out of Hugenholtz box that time, and Rosberg in the FW08 Williams, the little stubby new Williams, which has still to show its real worth. Rosberg, who ran at the front of the Belgian Grand Prix but then lost so late in the race to John Watson. Patrick Tambay leading him in the Ferrari number 27, Gilles Villeneuve's old mount. And Rosberg on his tail in the Williams number 6. Niki Lauda has dropped back a little bit to watch, but he can't drop back too much because he's got Riccardo Patrese in Brabham number 2 on his tail. Bruno Giacomelli is next up, and I think the Tolman is already in trouble because Derek Warwick has fallen away from that group as we come up to complete lap 10. And still this Ferrari holds 5th place. Now Rosberg in the slipstream. Is he going to try? He's going to. He's up the inside. And is he through? He's not. Tambay confidently shuts the door. And Rosberg has to give best. Tambay 5th. Rosberg 6th. The Ferrari, the teammate of Tambay, Didier Pironi, still out there in front. Still the Renaults of Prost and Arnoux 2nd and 3rd. Still world champion Nelson Piquet 4th. And this is the battle of the race for 5th place. Tambay into Schivlak. Rosberg bouncing over the bumps. And Lauda has dropped back, and Rosberg is having a look at the outside as they come down into the Marlboro box. He's not close enough to the Ferrari to get on terms, but he closes up as they come out of Marlboro box, over the East Tunnel and down towards the other new corner, the Panorama box. And it's now that Rosberg must get into the slipstream of the Ferrari for a good run through the long, fast right-hander that follows this corner, which is Boss Sweet, onto the long start-finish straight. There they go. Rosberg striving to get into the slipstream of that Ferrari, to get a suck, to get the pull of the air behind that Ferrari's rear wing. I don't think he's close enough to do it this lap. Bouncing over the bumps, Tambay is 5th still, Rosberg is still 6th, and Niki Lauda still in 7th place, with Patrese close behind him. In fact, Patrese also has got a problem. We're missing Patrese there. And there is Derek Warwick. As I said, he has trouble. That's the Tolman of Derek Warwick in the pits, and that's a great shame. But Patrese also has trouble, and so now Bruno Giacomelli is closing up again in the Alpha. There is Patrese. Patrese in the pits in Brabham number 2, and of course it's his teammate Piquet in Brabham number 1. which is currently holding 4th place behind the leading Ferrari and the Renaults. Here's the second Ferrari, still in 5th place. Patrick Tambay, the dark blue helmet of the Frenchman, the blue and white helmet of the car following, Keke Rosberg from Finland, in the Williams. And there you see the gap, 3.3 seconds from the leading Ferrari back to Prost, another 4 seconds back to Arnoux, and 2.5 seconds behind Arnoux is Nelson Piquet. And then this wonderful 5th place battle, and still Tambay refusing to be ruffled as they come onto the start-finish straight again, and this time Rosberg is closer. This is the start of lap 12, and Rosberg is definitely close to the Ferrari. Is he going to try once? There he goes, looks across. He glances across from the cockpit as he goes through. Tambay tries to shut the door, and I think that Tambay's front wheel must have almost caught the Williams' back wheel there. But Rosberg, the hard-trying Finn, never says die, and Rosberg at last is through. So Keke Rosberg, having worked enormously hard to get up to 5th place, Tambay now 6th. Niki Lauda, there he is, in 7th place. And we've got Bruno Giacomelli next up in 8th. And we're going to see it again, a classic manoeuvre. He's used the slipstream behind the Ferrari to suck himself close. The Ferrari with a more powerful engine, but Rosberg was absolutely in the right place. Now he leaves his braking absolutely late. You see him glance across to the left. Head bouncing in the cockpit under braking, these very harshly sprung cars, the cars very unstable at that moment of braking from getting on for 200 miles an hour on the straight into the hairpin, second gear at about 55 miles an hour. And now Tambay immediately has slipped back in the Ferrari from Keke Rosberg's Williams, as we see the Arnoux Piquet situation, and that's getting very interesting. It was 2.5 seconds when we saw the gap on the caption a few laps back. That is very much less. And Nelson Piquet now accelerating out of Hugenholz Bocht up towards the Hunserug. Nelson Piquet in the Brabham Turbo BMW closing on René Arnoux in the Turbo Renault, and that is going to be 3rd place if Piquet can get it. Piquet, who's had a difficult start to the season developing this Brabham Turbo, but it's all come right because you'll remember at Montreal, Piquet scored a superb victory, having failed even to qualify the week before in Detroit. So Arnoux and Piquet, you see the telltale puffs of flame from the back of these turbocharged cars as unignited fuel burns in the exhaust system that drives the turbocharger. And Arnoux onto the long start-finish straight, and Piquet not yet close enough. You see Prost at the front of the picture. There is Arnoux, there is Piquet. And Piquet's not close enough yet to tug himself past Renault number 16 of Arnoux, but he's getting closer all the time. Still, of course, not to be forgotten, out in front, Didier Pironi in Ferrari number 28. Pironi absolutely running away with this race, leading it almost as he pleases from the front, and almost starting to look relaxed. Still Prost in 2nd place, and still this battle for 3rd place between René Arnoux in the Renault. There he is, down into Schiflach, and just behind him, there, Nelson Piquet of Brazil in the British Brabham with a German BMW engine. Down into the Marlboro Bocht. Both of them using the curve, Arnoux using quite a lot of curve there. Down through Tunnel Oost and up into the Panorama Bocht. Piquet having a little look at the inside there. And now it's the run down to Bossuit, that last curving right-hander, and it's now that Piquet must work to get close to the Renault if he's to have a run down the start-finish straight, the traditional place for overtaking. He looks pretty close, he's in the slipstream. Arnoux keeps over to the right of the road, so Piquet tries the left. And that's a very brave manoeuvre because he's got further to go, but he's got a more stable line for braking. And didn't the world champion make that look easy? Nelson Piquet, all the way around the outside of Tarzan Corner, takes 3rd place, demotes René Arnoux to 4th. So now it's Ferrari, Renault, Brabham and Renault, and every one of them using 1.5-litre turbocharged engines. There you see it again. Arnoux keeps to the right-hand side of the road to keep the door shut, so Piquet, not to be outdone, goes over to the left and leaves his braking a lot later. A little bounce from the Renault there, under braking. It looked a little bit unstable for a moment. And that's Marc Surer. Marc Surer, the Swiss driver, he's asking for fresh tyres, waves his arms to the Arrows mechanics, and they're changing the tyres. Now, that's significant because this early in the race, on the abrasive surface, lap 17 this is now, you see the positions after 15 laps, and 6.5 seconds is Pironi's lead. A further 6 seconds down is Piquet. Is Piquet, this man here, going to be able to get close to second man Prost and demote Prost's Renault as he has just demoted Arnoux? Prost not making any sort of impression. There is Arnoux, that's Arnoux in 4th place, but Prost in 2nd place, not making any sort of impression on the leading Ferrari. Down into Schivlak, Arnoux once more. You saw a flash of white in front of him, which is Nelson Piquet. And still we've got this wonderful 5th place battle going on with Patrick Tambay struggling manfully as we look at the Dutch hero of this race, the only Dutch driver in Grand Prix racing, Jan Lammers, who qualified, and that itself quite an effort, with the Theodore, run by Teddy Yip and Sid Taylor, and the Theodore scraping in on the back row of the grid for the diminutive little Dutchman Jan Lammers, who lives here in Zandvoort, to delight the local crowd and get into the race. And he's already been lapped. You've got the Brabham running in front of him of Piquet, so he's already been lapped by the first 3. But nevertheless, Jan Lammers doing a workmanlike job on a circuit which he must know better than any man alive. Very much his home circuit. He's involved in a racing driver school here. He must have done countless club races, saloon races, sports car races here. And Jan Lammers, with a certain amount of Formula One experience under his belt, now back into Formula One with the Theodore, and that's Derek Warwick. What a shame. He's already had a pit stop in the Tolman. He came out again, and he looks rather disconsolately at the smoking back of the car. Looked like some sort of oil leak to me. But Derek Warwick, who went so magnificently in the early stages, now obviously out of the race. This is lap 22, as we watch Nelson Piquet down through Tarzan on his own this time, trying to close the gap all the time between himself. Oh, and it's Arnoux who's got off. Arnoux is off at Tarzan. A wheel flying, Arnoux in the car, a front wheel off that car, and René Arnoux is well off at Tarzan. That's a terrifying place to lose a wheel. Arnoux braking from getting on for 200 miles an hour on that long straight for the sharp Tarzan hairpin at the end of the straight. And as the Dutch marshals try to get him out, there you see it, the front wheel is off the car. He's cannoned, there goes the front wheel, and he's cannoned into the tyres, the protective tyres, which are a buffer between the Armco barrier and anybody unfortunate enough to hit them. And as the marshals work to try and release the driver, who seems to be trapped probably by his legs. Fortunately, the car not looking that damaged. That's Brian Henton, who's come to a halt just after Tarzan. And they have managed to get Arnoux out of the car. He's certainly conscious. In fact, he's taking his own crash helmet off. Well, that's a good sign. Arnoux grimacing in pain. But nevertheless, his injuries, one would hope, looking fairly slight. And how well the monocoque chassis of that Renault has withstood that impact. This is Pironi lapping one of the ATSs. That's in fact Salazar, the Chilean driver, who tucks in behind the Ferrari to try and get a bit of a tow as he goes on his way. Eliseo Salazar in the German ATS being lapped by Didier Pironi looking a very calm and relaxed leader. There you see the gap now up to 13.7 seconds. And Piquet, now what is that, 4 seconds, slightly less than 4 seconds behind. And Rosberg, of course, ahead of this Tambay battle now, and still Tambay has Niki Lauda so very close behind him. Lauda apparently unable to find a way past the Ferrari. Keke Rosberg now following the departure of Arnoux. Keke Rosberg, of course, now in 4th place. This is still the 5th place battle, and Lauda not close enough this time. Tambay and Lauda once more into task. There's Bruno Giacomelli. The orange car behind them is Marc Surer, who, as you will remember, had a pit stop and has come out to join in this battle. So Marc Surer well up on the road, but not in fact on the race. And another pit stop, that's Elio De Angelis in the Lotus. Now, you haven't seen much of it, but De Angelis has been having a battle royal further down the field with John Watson. Watson managing to fend off De Angelis, and I gather that there's some sort of question of De Angelis having damaged a skirt. He didn't actually touch Watson, but he had a big moment, which we saw down at the end of the long straight, with the Lotus trying to pass the McLaren of Watson. And so De Angelis in the pits, and once again, here is our splendid 5th place battle. Tambay in the turbocharged Ferrari, Lauda in the normally aspirated McLaren Cosworth, and is he going to have a go out of the slipstream now? Lauda must pull out of the slipstream now. There he goes, up the inside, but once again the Ferrari appears to have superb brakes, and Lauda just can't outbrake it. De Angelis still in the, yes, there you see hit the skirt on the left-hand side of the car being worked on by the mechanics. The part of the bodywork that is virtually in contact with the road to help the ground effects to work. The moving skirts, of course, now outlawed, but the car's still designed so that the sides of the body are as close as possible to the road to allow the airflow under the car to help hold the car down onto the road in a stable fashion. Now, Lauda closing all the time through the twisty bits on that Ferrari. Marc Surer having a splendid tow, and Piquet's gone through. Piquet has gone through into 2nd place as they lapped one of the back markers, as in fact they lapped one of the ATSs. Nelson Piquet has found a way past Alain Prost and into 2nd place. This is Piquet, Prost and the ATS that has just been lapped, and you saw a glimpse there also of Keke Rosberg, who's closed up on that battle. So, Pironi is still the leader. This man, Nelson Piquet, now into 2nd place in the Brabham BMW. And not a good day for Renault, because with poor René Arnoux very much out of the race, Alain Prost, who led the early stages, now demoted by Nelson Piquet into 3rd place. Keke Rosberg is still 4th, and still Patrick Tambay hanging on to 5th place ahead of Niki Lauda and Bruno Giacomelli. The distinctive downturn front wings of the Brabham BMW, always very, very aesthetically attractive cars, the Brabhams. This is lap 32 now, and that's the other ATS, the front of the picture of Finkelhock, and he's having his own battle with Jochen Mass, but this is Piquet once more. Little puffs of flame from the back of the Brabham as he comes out of Tarzan. And all the time, Alain Prost being dropped, Piquet confidently in 2nd place. Now, will we see Piquet close on the Ferrari? Will Piquet be able to put the pressure on the leader Didier Pironi? You saw him briefly wipe his visor there. Perhaps some oil coming out of the back of the Renault that he's had to pass. Now, that's interesting. Perhaps the Renault's got a problem, perhaps it's losing oil, perhaps there's an engine problem there, because Piquet, you saw his hand just go quickly over the clear plastic visor of his all-enveloping helmet, wiping the oil away now that he's got in front. A little twitch there, and 20 seconds is the gap that Piquet must try and make up on Pironi. And still, Tambay is 5th, Rosberg, of course, now in 4th place, Alain Prost 3rd, this man 2nd, and he's got 20 seconds to make up on leader Didier Pironi, and that's a long, long way in the competitive world of Grand Prix racing. On the start-finish straight, there's the battle between Winkelhock and Jochen Mass at the front of the picture. They're a lap down, but Jochen Mass, number 17, the white march, comes down the outside. Nelson Piquet has a grandstand view as he comes up to lap them. And in a race of this sort, where the field is so strung out, it's always a problem for people like Piquet now, who has to get past Manfred Winkelhock. Always a problem lapping back markers. Winkelhock keeps clearly out of the way, and Jochen Mass is now in front of Piquet. Winkelhock is behind. And it's always most difficult for the leader. Tambay, of course, still in 5th place, still Niki Lauda, eternally dogging his wheel tracks. But it's always hardest for the leader, who is the first car to do any lapping as he comes through the field. Piquet in 2nd place is, of course, passing cars that have already been passed by Pironi, and they know that the field are coming through, and Lauda's having a little go on the inside. And look at that, fastest lap to Derek Warwick. That was in his marvellous drive in the early stages in the very fast Turbo Tolman. How nice to see that car going well. How sad to see that Derek Warwick is already out of the race. And that's one of the alphas. That's De Cesaris, who's been running considerably behind his teammate Bruno Giacomelli. So De Cesaris not going as well perhaps today as we've seen at other races this season. Niki Lauda surely now must get past Patrick Tambay. Tambay always with the power down the straights and apparently very good brakes, which means that Lauda hasn't been able to use the traditional Zandvoort passing place at the end of the long straight. But Keke Rosberg did it, so surely Niki Lauda's going to have a try. Patrick Tambay giving an excellent account of himself. Remember, this is his first race with Ferrari, and the first time we've seen Patrick Tambay in a really competitive Formula One car since his McLaren days. Niki Lauda, of course, in a McLaren, in the MP4, the car run by the Marlboro team that was reconstituted with Ron Dennis joining Teddy Mayer, and it was Ron Dennis who managed to lure Niki Lauda back from retirement. Now Niki in the slipstream, is he going to pull out? Lauda in the slipstream behind the Ferrari, he's leaving it late, he's left it very late, and Tambay shuts the door. A little slide from Tambay there, but now Lauda's got to do that work all over again. He's going to have to follow the Ferrari through Hugenholzbach, the corner named after the founder of the circuit, up over the brow, downhill once more, through the right-hand sweep, the left-hand sweep, through the right-hander over Hunsrück, down towards Schivlach, which is the sharp right-hander that takes them onto the back section of the circuit, up the hill once again, and Lauda dogging the wheel tracks of the Ferrari, but he's not going to have another opportunity, I think, until they get on the start-finish straight once again. So with 35 laps, so approaching half distance, and we're actually on lap 37 now, so the race half over, and 25 seconds is Didier Pironi's lead. There's nothing so far that Nelson Piquet has been able to do about it. On the contrary, he's lost 5 seconds. So a 25-second lead for Didier Pironi, an enormous lead for the Ferrari, and that's Elio De Angelis back in the race with his skirt mended, getting past the Theodore of the yokel hero, Jan Lammers. But both of these cars well out of the running. Lammers has been lapped, and of course Elio De Angelis, the only Lotus in the race, because Nigel Mansell isn't here since his arm injury from Montreal has meant that he couldn't drive, and Roberto Moreno, the young Formula 3 driver, has had a go at qualifying the Lotus, but not surprisingly, being flung rather in the deep end, he wasn't able to qualify. So Elio De Angelis, the only Lotus, and well done after that pit stop, as is Jan Lammers in number 33, the Theodore of Teddy Yip. Still the same order at the front, still Ferrari, still this man in second place. There is Nelson Piquet, and incidentally, Riccardo Patrese, his teammate, still running, but you'll remember he had a pit stop earlier, which we're told was due to a gear linkage problem. That's an unusual sort of fault to get on the normally immaculately prepared Brabhams from Bernie Ecclestone's team, designed of course by Gordon Murray, the South African. And so Riccardo Patrese, now himself using the turbocharged BMW engine in his Brabham, still running strongly but well down the field after that early pit stop. But this is Nelson Piquet in second place, now running nearly half a minute behind, and Lauda's done it! Lauda has done it at last. And we didn't see it on screen, but it was in the traditional place at the end of the long straight and into the Tarsen hairpin. After trying for so long, after in fact spending half the race behind that Ferrari of Patrick Tambay, at last, Lauda is by. So Niki Lauda now being able to pull away as they go down into Schievelak in McLaren number 8. And there's McLaren number 7. That's John Watson, the current World Championship leader, and that looked to me like a tyre change. So as Lauda now enjoys his new one position in 4th place now, behind Pironi, Piquet and Rosberg, because we've seen Alain Prost in the Renault fall back. But John Watson, the current World Championship leader, not looking as though he's going to increase his score today. There you see Lauda doing it in slow motion. And as we thought, the traditional place up the inside into Tarsen under braking. And that time, there was nothing that Patrick Tambay could do about it. So on lap 40 of the 72, 32 laps still to go, Didier Pironi is still the leader by a very wide margin of just under half a minute now from Nelson Piquet in the Brabham BMW. Keke Rosberg still 3rd in the Williams, 4th Niki Lauda, and there you saw John Watson back in the race, letting his teammate Lauda past. So Watson has lost almost exactly a lap and has come out almost on the same position of the circuit as Niki Lauda, now running in 4th place. Derek Daly is now challenging Patrick Tambay, so the work that Niki Lauda had to do to get past Tambay is now being taken up by Derek Daly in the other Williams. John Watson on fresh tyres, there you see him at the back of that picture. Number 8 is Niki Lauda in 4th place. Number 7, the identical car, there you see it, is John Watson, and he has come out to run just in front of Patrick Tambay. Tambay still clinging on to this 5th place ahead of Derek Daly. Lauda over the start-finish straight and down into Tarsen, and a long, long way ahead of the Ferrari now. And still Pironi in the leading Ferrari, absolutely out on his own and looking very, very secure indeed. Now, can Lauda close on Rosberg? That's going to be the next interesting thought, because now that Lauda has no longer got the Ferrari in front of him, the white car that he's coming up to pass now, of course, isn't Rosberg. That, I believe, is the Theodore again of Jan Lammers. So Lauda, yes, there it is, number 33. Niki Lauda has Jan Lammers to lap, but some way ahead of him is Keke Rosberg in 3rd place. And Rosberg, of course, having got past the Ferrari so much earlier, has put a lot of road between himself and the Austrian. Out of the Panorama Bocht, on the long sweep of Boss Sweet, the long right-hander that seems to go on and on forever, into top gear now, and flat out down this long start-finish straight. Elio De Angelis bouncing over the bumps in the Lotus. There is Niki Lauda having just lapped Jan Lammers, and notice how Lammers chops in behind the McLaren to try and get a tow. That's Jean-Pierre Jarier being lapped, and as you see, Daly has passed Tambay, so we didn't see it on the screen, but with 41 laps completed, Derek Daly has brought the second Williams into 5th place. So Williams cars are 3rd and 5th, Niki Lauda is 4th, and this man, still in 2nd place, wearing the number 1 of the world champion, that is Nelson Piquet of Brazil. The car behind him, Jean-Pierre Jarier. That's the only Azella in the race, because of course Azella still sadly without a second driver following the tragic accident in Montreal, which cost the life of their other driver, Riccardo Paletti. Nelson Piquet, the Montreal winner, and still in a very strong 2nd place, and although he doesn't seem to be able to close at all on the Ferrari, he must know that if anything happens to the Ferrari, he's liable to make it 2 wins in a row. Something's happened to the Theodore of Jan Lammers, and that'll be very unpopular in the crowd. You see behind it Andrea De Cesaris still in the pits. That's the 3rd stop, in fact, that De Cesaris has made. This is lap 44, and this is the Williams of Keke Rosberg. Now, Rosberg, by my stopwatch, is going as quickly as anybody now. Pironi has settled into a rhythm. He's got this very large cushion back to second man Piquet. Piquet is holding his strong 2nd place, but not making any impression on Pironi. But this man, Keke Rosberg, who you saw trying so hard in the early stages, and you see there a bit of opposite lock as he slides the tail out of Hugenholzbocht, up over the Hunzerug and down towards Schieflach. The Finn is closing on second man. That's Didier Pironi, the leader, of course, but closing on second man, Nelson Piquet is the 3rd man, Keke Rosberg of Finland. But as we look on lap 56 now at the leader Didier Pironi, surely nothing short of mechanical failure is going to stop this wonderful run of Didier Pironi, the Frenchman. Remember, of course, that he won that strange race at Imola, the San Marino Grand Prix, in a battle with the late Gilles Villeneuve, the 2 Ferraris battling against each other with a controversial situation there because Pironi apparently ignored pit signals which told him to allow Villeneuve to win the race ahead of him, and sadly that brought a certain amount of enmity between the 2 men, and 2 weeks later, of course, Gilles Villeneuve died in that awful accident in Belgium in practice at Zolder. And now the Ferrari clearly reaching a new pitch of competitiveness. How sad that Gilles Villeneuve isn't here to be part of it. That's Derek Daly about to be lapped. Derek Daly in Williams number 5, and that is a measure of the competitiveness of the Ferrari, because Derek Daly in 5th place is now about to be lapped by the leader Didier Pironi. Down into Hugenholzbocht, and that little twitch of the Williams, Derek Daly using just the same sort of oversteering technique out of the Hugenholzbocht as does his teammate Keke Rosberg, and it's Rosberg in 3rd place who is keeping this race alive in his pursuit of second man Nelson Piquet. Derek Daly 5th, Didier Pironi 1st, Pironi closing on Daly, and of course with absolutely no one in his mirrors, Didier Pironi can afford to bide his time. He doesn't have to snatch his way past the back markers. He can choose his time and needs to take no risk at all. Derek Daly, the Irishman who came into the Williams team, you'll remember, to take the place of Carlos Reutemann, who retired abruptly after the first race of the season. Carlos Reutemann, who so nearly won the World Championship last year and remained with the Williams team when Alan Jones retired. Reutemann then decided himself to retire And Derek Daly, the Irishman, got the drive in Williams number 5. And still Didier Pironi content to follow Derek Daly. And again that slide from Daly through the Hugenholz-Bocht. Hard acceleration, they take Hugenholz-Bocht in bottom gear, and as they power up the hill, still the Ferrari sitting behind Derek Daly, and Didier Pironi making no attempt at this stage to pass the Irishman and lap him. Through the Marlborough-Bocht, the new chicane at the back, through the East Tunnel corner, that's that right-hander there, on down towards the Panorama Bocht, and now Pironi very close. Pironi still looking very calm and relaxed, and as they come down to Bossuit, the Ferrari closing now on the Williams as they come down to the start-finish straight, and this is to start lap 60. So as they cross that finish line there, the start-finish line, and as the Ferrari goes through to lap Derek Daly, there are now 12 laps of the 72 still to run. And Derek Daly tucking in behind the Ferrari to try to use the tow of that very powerful V6 turbocharged engine and try to close himself on Niki Lauda in 4th place, but he's a long way down. And Derek Daly in 5th place, now 1 lap down on the leader, Didier Pironi in the Turbo Ferrari. Once more, Pironi down to sheet black. And as we see from the helicopter as they pass one of the ponds in among the sand dunes of this undulating circuit right on the seashore here, now we see Pironi. Now we see Piquet, I should say. That, in fact, there in that gaggle is Patrese. Patrese is ahead of Tambay, and behind them, a lap ahead of them, number 6 going past Tambay now. Passing Tambay for the second time in this race is Keke Rosberg. Now, in front of Keke Rosberg is Riccardo Patrese in the Brabham, but Patrese's had a pit stop, he's a lap behind, and as the determined Keke Rosberg fights his way past, it's an amazing passing manoeuvre as they go up to the Hunzerug. Keke Rosberg is past Patrese and has lapped him, and the white car in front of Patrese now is Keke Rosberg. The white car in front of Keke Rosberg, when you see it, is Nelson Piquet in 2nd place, and I think we're going to have a battle for 2nd in the closing stages of this race. Rosberg fighting every inch of the way. His pit signals will be giving him the gap to Brabham number 1, behind him Brabham number 2, Patrese a lap down, behind them Tambay. In fact, Patrese 2 laps down, Tambay 1 lap down in the Ferrari. Didier Pironi is still the leader. Nelson Piquet still in 2nd place. There's Jochen Mass in the pits in the March, number 17. We saw him earlier battling with his fellow German Manfred Winkelhock, but the Rothmans March of Jochen Mass in the pits. And there, Patrese still ahead of Patrick Tambay, although Tambay is himself a lap ahead of Patrese because Patrese lost 2 laps in all with his early pit stop. But still Pironi the leader, still Piquet in 2nd place, and still Rosberg in the Williams, piling on the pressure as we go now into the closing stages of this race. Can Keke Rosberg make up a pace? There's Tambay looking for a way past Patrese. Turbo Brabham leading Turbo Ferrari to confuse all the lap charters. They're on different laps. Tambay 1 lap behind the leader in Ferrari number 27. Patrese 2 laps behind the leader in Brabham number 2. And still Brabham number 1, Nelson Piquet in 2nd place. And still Keke Rosberg driving his Scandinavian heart out and trying to close the gap on Piquet. Once more we look from the helicopter at Riccardo Patrese and Patrick Tambay. Out of the Panorama Bocht, down towards Bossuit, and on the long start-finish straight. And that's Keke Rosberg giving a little wave there to the arrows that he's just passed. So you saw Keke Rosberg going out of the picture in front. Tambay now up alongside and past Riccardo Patrese. Riccardo Patrese not making it at all easy for him. So Patrick Tambay still in 6th place. Remember, Pironi the leader, Piquet in 2nd place, Rosberg 3rd, Niki Lauda still 4th, Derek Daly still 5th, and Patrick Tambay in the Ferrari still 6th. Ferrari's 1st and 6th, Brabham 2nd, and Williams 3rd and 5th, with the McLaren of Lauda 4th. Tambay once again into Schivlak. And meanwhile, we're checking with our stopwatches because there is the leader Pironi, and we're checking to see how this gap is coming down between Rosberg in 3rd place and Piquet in 2nd place. But Didier Pironi easing off a little bit now. I don't think he's got any problems, but the gap between him and second man Piquet has come down. It's still a good 20 seconds. And so as we come into the closing stages of this race, no problems at all apparently for Didier Pironi. He may be trying to preserve his tyres a little bit, because on this abrasive Zandvoort circuit, made more abrasive by the sand that can blow off the verges, tyre wear is always a problem, and it's now that Didier Pironi will be trying to drive as tidily as possible to preserve his tyres and preserve his car. Pironi, who has been in the lead since the very early stages, he took the lead in fact on lap 5, and since then has been able to dominate this race. Pironi on through yet another lap, and on as we look on the start-finish straight, there is the battle. That's Piquet, number 1. That's Keke Rosberg in number 6. This is lap 68. It's 4 laps to go. Now, can Keke Rosberg, who has really been driving as hard, if not harder than anyone in this race, can he close on world champion Piquet in the Brabham number 1? Piquet through Hunsrück, through Hugenholzbocht, up towards Hunsrück, and as he goes up the hill to the brow that is Hunsrück, down towards that brow comes Keke Rosberg in the Williams. Rosberg now has that great psychological improvement in the situation for him, that he no longer has to rely on pit signals. He can now see his quarry in front of him. He knows from his pit signals he's got less than 4 laps to do it, and now he's piling on the pressure. Now is the time that drivers are tired, but cars are tired, and particularly that tyres are tired. There's Pironi reeling off another comfortable lap, with the drama being enacted in the battle for second place behind him. And of course, 6 championship points for second, 4 championship points for third, and Pironi on his way to 9 championship points if nothing goes wrong. That's the position at 68 laps. And there the gap was 3.4 seconds between Piquet and Rosberg. Lauda 77 seconds behind the leader and very nearly lapped. But I think the gap is a lot less than 3.6 seconds now as we come into the very closing laps of this Dutch Grand Prix. Pironi driving smoothly on his way. Little glance in his mirrors, but an empty road behind him. Only a few back markers in front as he comes out of the panorama box yet again, and through Bossuit onto the start-finish straight. There is Piquet. This is lap 71. So now it's the time that Keke Rosberg must make the supreme effort, and I think Piquet's got some cars in front of him to lap, and that could provide an additional hazard. There is Piquet, there is Rosberg, and Rosberg making up time all the time, but it could be that he's left his challenge too late. That's the ATS of Winkelhock in front of them, the yellow car. And that's Alboreto who's spun. Alboreto and Derek Daly have touched. There's Derek Daly starting off again. And that was a last-minute effort by Alboreto to snatch 5th place from Daly. Now, Piquet's being held up. Piquet's being delayed by Alboreto. There's a problem at the back of Alboreto's car. I think his rear suspension's bent, because look at the rubber smoke coming off his rear tyre. Alboreto is holding up Nelson Piquet. Piquet going through now, but that has allowed Keke Rosberg to get closer. Now, this is lap 71 of the 72. The blue flag's waving for Alboreto. That has lost Alboreto the possible chance of a 5th place from Derek Daly. He was alongside him and the two of them touched. Daly has got started again in 5th place. That has promoted Mauro Baldi, the young Italian, into 6th place, and that's a very good effort for him. And this is the start of the final lap for Didier Pironi. Didier Pironi starts lap 72 in the Ferrari, and now is the moment that he will listen for some late-minute problem, and what of course it could well be in this season particularly, where we've had so many problems at Monaco and again in Montreal of cars running out of petrol. In last-minute laps, in final laps, we had it with 3 cars in Montreal. We had all those problems at Monte Carlo, and so now Didier Pironi, willing that his car won't give him any final trouble as he goes through Schivlac for the final time. We watch him from the helicopter going down towards the Marlborough Bocht. There is the Marlborough Bocht chicane for the 72nd time. A wonderful drive by the ever calm Frenchman in the now very effective turbocharged Ferrari, benefiting from the work of Harvey Postlethwaite, the English designer who's now with Ferrari. That's Niki Lauda in front of them. Niki Lauda perhaps going to be lapped on this final lap. So, having lapped all but 3 of the rest of the field and having very nearly lapped Niki Lauda, this is the finish line. There's the checkered flag ready for him. Lauda crosses it to start his final lap. There is the winner, Didier Pironi, taking the flag. Up comes his right arm to acknowledge the claps of the crowd. Now, where is Nelson Piquet? Where is Keke Rosberg? Because I think they're going to be very close on this final lap. There are some back markers in the way. Here we look, and it's Piquet crossing the line now. Now goes Rosberg. So Rosberg's final charge left just a little bit too late, and there's a puff of flame from the Turbo Brabham. Piquet is second. Rosberg is third, Niki Lauda is fourth, Derek Daly is fifth, and because Tambay has fallen back, sixth is going to go to Mauro Baldi. But there is, with his crash helmet already off, a welcome blast of cool air for the winner, Didier Pironi. And there you see Baldi sixth, Daly fifth, both of them lapped. And just 0.7 of a second between second man Nelson Piquet, third man Keke Rosberg. A tremendous finish to the race. John Watson still in the championship lead, but now only 1 point between Watson, who didn't score today, and Pironi, who scored 9 lovely points. Keke Rosberg third with 21. Riccardo Patrese, who didn't score today, although he finished fourth with 19. And there the delighted Didier Pironi, a rather tired and hot-looking Rosberg in the blue overalls on the left of the picture. Just out of the picture on the right is a relieved Nelson Piquet, having just kept that second place. So the spoils to the victor, Didier Pironi, and how happy he looks and how happy he deserves to look after a superb race, having absolutely dominated the 1982 Dutch Grand Prix. There's Jean-Marie Balestre in the foreground of Fisa, as we get a kiss for Keke Rosberg also, and a wave to the crowd. That's René Arnoux' car, and I'm happy to tell you that we're told that Arnoux was shaken and bruised, but not badly hurt in that accident, and that's good news indeed. And so now we look forward another 2 weeks to the British Grand Prix at Brands Hatch, with 1 point in the championship battle between Watson and Pironi. See you then.